Hey guys, welcome to the Scholar Online YouTube channel, the channel that is all about learning. And I'm back today, back on OpenAI, back on how to develop OpenAI products using their API. And today specifically, I want to focus on chat plugins. So if you're interested in what chat plugins are as far as OpenAI ChatGPT API is concerned, you've come to the right channel. I will start by explaining exactly what chat plugins are. I've just recently got access to it. I've been on the waiting list for months, and I'm actually exploring with you for the first time right here on camera. So this is not rehearsed. There might be some things that don't quite go as planned, but explore with me here. And as you're playing around with the plugins, use this as your reference video to come back and to sort of find your way around how to get started with chat plugins for ChatGPT. Okay, so what I'm going to do in this video, I'm going to see what I can cover in the time that we have, but I will first of all start by explaining what plugins are. We'll go into some examples of some plugins that have already been released, and then I'm actually going to go step by step through the example that is provided on the OpenAI website on how to implement a plugin, and we're going to try and implement our own plugin here today. All right, so I'm going to use the most minimalistic example that I've got, but I'm going to follow it step by step, and we're going to see how well written their documentation is. It's generally very well written, but we are going to follow it step by step today. So if you've been trying to implement your own plugin, at least if you follow along in this video today, you'll be able to implement the most minimalistic type of a plugin, and then we can move on from there and make it a little bit more complicated to build the kind of plugins that are available on ChatGPT today. Okay, so I hope you guys are very excited about this video. Remember to like this video, remember to leave a comment, remember to subscribe to my channel and turn on notifications so that you get notified every time there is a new video that we release. Okay, so let's get started with chat plugins. So what is chat plugins? Now, obviously, chat plugins are plugins that plug into the ChatGPT or chat, that plug into the ChatGPT website, right? So you can access the ChatGPT website here on chat.openai.com. And when you get access to plugins on my side, this is what it looks like. Okay, they've separated 3.5 from GPT-4, and on GPT 3.5, I think you can continue to just chat with it like you used to chat on GPT 3.5. There is no limitations on the amount of messages you can send. You can do whatever you like, but I'm obviously on ChatGPT Plus, which means I even have even less of limitations. So in terms of high peak traffic and all of that, I don't really have issues to generate responses. But if you activate your ChatGPT Plus, you will now see GPT-4. GPT-4 is only available to ChatGPT Plus users. I think it's one of the incentives for you to upgrade to ChatGPT Plus. You get access to GPT-4. The nice thing about GPT-4 is that there's a lot of information out there about the differences between the 3 and 4. I can tell you from my experience, and I've used even the API, there isn't much of a performance difference between GPT 3.5 and 4. The only difference on my side that is even worth using GPT-4 is the amount of tokens that you get, because I see there's always complaints about this. If you follow along communities, there's always complaints around the tokens, how the responses get sometimes cut in half, and sometimes you can't get the full response. It's limited by the number of tokens that the model can deliver. GPT-4 has extremely much higher number of tokens that you can put into the model, and that it can output out as well. So you can put in, I think, I can't remember, I think 8,000 tokens in the model that they have now, and they're going to even increase it even further and double that to 16,000 tokens. So the point is, you can write an entire small little book on GPT-4 with the number of tokens that's available. That's, for me, the main difference I've seen between 4 and 3. As far as the responses, I've tested it on a multiple type of responses, and I get similar responses. Perhaps GPT-4 adds a little bit more detail when it explains things, but it's going to give you the same answer. So if you're not looking to generate huge responses, I would just stick with GPT-3 for now. But if you want to try out plugins, then you definitely need GPT-4, because you will not have plugins on GPT 3.5. They will not implement plugins on GPT 3.5, so you will need to pay for the GPT Plus to get access to plugins. And I know people, paying for stuff. I mean, this is a huge conversation, and I used to be on the other side of the conversation where I used to be like, oh, but why are you not just giving it for free? Why must we pay for it? Bard is free, da da da. And I always say, you know what, now that I'm a developer and I'm on the other side, when you spend your whole day and time and you're running servers and it's costing you money, and you develop this amazing product that you give to people, and people still want to complain because nobody wants to actually pay for it. And I always say to people, do you work at the McDonald's and demand a free burger? And if McDonald's gave you a free burger, well, who's really covering the cost? When Google and Facebook all came out, they came out with this model of trying to monetize their software in other ways, and they were giving you Google for free. You can search Google for free. People got used to free stuff, but there's a saying: every time you get something for free, you are the one that's paying, you are the commodity. All right. So what did Google do? They gave us this free search engine, and everybody got excited about using Google and Facebook until you learned actually this is not free. They're using my data, using my information. They are marketing to me. I'm actually the cash cow of this entire business. So be careful with free stuff. Personally, I don't even trust anybody who offers me something for free anymore, because I need to find out where is the money coming from to pay for this. If I'm not paying for it, somebody else is paying for it, and I'm the product. Understand? So pay for stuff and stop being stingy. All right. These guys do an amazing job. The amount of training, the amount of engineers, the amount of servers that have to go into building these amazing products, they gotta get the money somewhere. And if you force not to pay for it, well, you will be paying for it in other ways. And we saw how Google went down the drain with monetizing of people's private information and advertising and marketing. And I hate using Google these days, because when I go to Google and I search for something, I don't even find what I'm searching for. I find whatever it is, whoever it is paying Google to show me what I should be searching for. And that's just ridiculous, right? So now, with all of that ranting aside, let's get back to business. We are going to be talking about, so this is what you see now, right? You see plugins beta, and then you see the default. So basically you can go into the default, and then you can click on it, and then you can just chat with GPT-4 like you normally used to chat. But I want to try out the plugin, so I'm going to go and say plugins beta. Beta just means they are testing. I think they used to be in alpha, now they are in beta, which means a couple of plugins have been approved. Now when you see when you select beta, you'll see there'll be that thing that pops up there that says no plugins have been enabled. All right. So basically what this means is that ChatGPT is not going to force any plugin upon you. All right. They've got tons and tons of plugins, but you will need to enable those plugins yourself. You can even develop your own plugin if you want. All right, you can develop your own plugin. And I think one of the best use cases that's going to come out of this plugin thing is the ability to train ChatGPT with your own data. There's been a lot of applications that have come out and made it well around being able to train ChatGPT with your own information. And now there is a plugin that is built specifically for that. You can go and download the source code for it, and then you can use one of the databases they make available, and then you can enter your own, so you don't have to worry about building the infrastructure yourself. You can work off the perfect example that they've given you by OpenAI, and then you can just load your own data. And then that means that when you chat to ChatGPT on their website here, you can chat to ChatGPT, but it will also be reading off your own database, and I think I've been waiting for that, and probably next week or the week after, I will make a video around that, how to use that plugin. I think they call it, there's a name for it. I just forget. It's here somewhere, the self, whatever. We'll get to it, and then I'll remind you that that's what I was talking about. I'm just forgetting what it's called. But other than that, then you can go in here, and there's a plugin store that you can then click on. And then when you get into the plugin store, you can now shop around through all the available plugins. And you can see there's quite a bit of plugins here, right? So if I look here, you will see there is up to 8. I think I see it's up to 8 pages. So it's about 8 pages of plugins. And then if you go to 8 times, I'm gonna just take off my calculator because I want to just calculate for you how many plugins exist already. All right, there's 8 times, let's say 8 pages, it's around 64 plugins already. And I can tell you this is just the beginning. I think they've just opened up the development to the general public. I think initially there was a few companies that were allowed to build, and certain developers they had selected. I only got my invite this week, so I'm very excited. So I can just predict with you right now that there's 8 pages. This is going to be 100 pages very, very soon, because people are going to build plugins. But what I'd like to see is creativity and interesting things, and not just a repetition of the same plugin. Because I went through this list like very, very quickly yesterday, and you sort of start to see the same things, right? Like for example, there's a lot of plugins around chat to PDF, right? Like I think if you go into most popular, it's there. Have they removed it? It's not there. So let's go to new. You see Bohita, likewise, glowing. I think I saw 2 or 3 different chat with PDF. There you go. Chat with PDF plugins. And what you need to do here is that, and there's a lot of chat to PDF applications out there. Basically what this is like you put in a PDF, and then it will sort of read it and sort of talk to you. You summarize or do all sorts of things. I mean, this is like, in my mind, it's going to be overdone, because there's like already 2 or 3 of them I've already seen. So what I like to obviously see is not a repetition of the same type of plugin over and over again, right? Because this is no longer a big deal. And actually you can, even right now with you can build your own embedding plugin now, where you can embed your own data. Right now you can do that if you wanted to, right? I'm interested in the SEO app. All right, your personal SEO assistant for content marketing. This is really cool, because SEO is like such a big thing, especially when you're on the internet. So I'm interested to see what something like this will do. I've also seen a couple of plugins around financial information and latest financial data. We know that, if you wanna like figure out what's the price of Bitcoin today, what are the stocks doing, and you wanna get some some input on that. I'm seeing a lot of that. I'm seeing a lot of diagramming. Diagramming. I think I saw this one. There was one about plots and mathematics. I think that's really going to make a huge difference. I think it's probably even in one of the most popular ones. I saw that yesterday, and I thought I'm going to try it out today. I don't see it anymore. Fiscal note. Where is it? Kayak speak. Yeah, Wolfram. Yes. So I actually want to try this. I don't know if I need to like to get an account on Wolfram or whatever to do something like that. I'm interested in that. And then obviously Expedia, being able to like plan for a trip. You want to travel somewhere. I actually want to try that, so I can be like, hey, I want to like, I want to organize a trip, because I'm planning to organize a trip to, to whatever for my birthday. I want to do something interesting. I won't tell you where I'm going, but like, I'd love to see how Expedia works with that as well. And then Zapier for me is a no-brainer. Okay, and I think you have a limit of like 3 plugins. I think I saw somewhere. Let me just go back there and close and see where I was. All right, yeah, plugins. So you see, I think you have like 3 plugins that you can do. So I'm not gonna use the 3rd one, because I want to actually like install my personal plugin. Remember I told you we're gonna build one later on, but let's see how these plugins work, right? So the way, from what I've seen, is that you don't tell ChatGPT that you want to use a specific plugin. You just sort of chat like you normally would have chatted, and ChatGPT makes a decision itself, based on the question you're asking, to say, okay, maybe I should use this plugin. So for example, let's say I want to organize, let me say suggest affordable travel locations in places where I do not need a visa with a South African passport. With a South African passport. So let's do that. So let's say suggest a couple of places you can go to where you don't need a visa with a South African passport. And this is like, I've done this before in the past, and I've and it will recommend places. Okay, you can go to Thailand, Indonesia, Malaysia. But let's try and see if I ask this with a plugin, because Expedia is supposed to be like some sort of travel plugin, if it will be able to do that. So now that's disappeared. I need to go to new chat, and then let's go to GPT-4. All right, and then let's pick plugins. Why is it disappearing on me? Plugins beta. And then let's like paste the same question. Okay, suggest affordable travel locations in places where I do not need a visa with a South African passport. Coolio. It's taking a while. So it's still not using the plugin. Okay, so So how should I use, how do I get it to use the plugin? Use the Expedia plugin, right? Let me tell it. Use Expedia. Let me like specifically direct it. Which destination? Let's see, Fiji. All right. There you go. Oh yes, use Expedia. Okay. How? Travel formation from South Africa to Fiji in, I don't know, let me say September. No, let's say in June 2023. I'm very specific now, okay? Travel information from South Africa to Fiji, June 2023. Okay, this time I didn't have to tell it to use Expedia. It used Expedia itself. All right, so yeah, these plugins need a bit of work, eh? I think I would expect you to, you know, as a chat application, to sort of infer some of these and then have me change my mind later. You know what I'm saying? Okay, but it's using Expedia. It's deciding to use Expedia. Okay, this is really cool. This is really cool. I know that I can still go to Google and do this myself and Google myself and go through. And I've had this question, but that like, why would I want to use this over and above Google? For me personally, like I said to you, what I don't like about Google is the fact that when I go to search on Google, I don't find the best information. I find the information that Google is getting paid to show me, right? So I can search and not find this flight on Google because Qatar Airlines did not buy a Google ad. That's the problem with Google right now. You don't really find what you're looking for. So I like that they've given me the options and the prices, a nice summary, you know, nice information, you know, the departure, the arrival, the duration of the flight, how many stops you're getting, and then you can click on, they actually provided links, which means if I wanted to go with, so this is $810, this is $911. And this one is $887. So this is like the cheapest one with Qatar Airlines to Fiji. So you could click on this with a you know, plugins, and it will take you directly to the page where you can see exactly, and it's actually a search page. So you know, you can like, so use it to like sort of narrow down your search results, and then once you've decided what you want, and then you can go here and then you can continue to make a booking there. So personally, I think this is amazing. I'm loving it, right? So this is, oh, and they've got pictures as well. Oh yeah, so they've got like, oh, hotel destinations, they've got a picture, and oh wow, okay. And then you can look through, this is really nice, I like this. So you can like sort of like, so these are the options there. So let's say you click on that, it's gonna show you, oh, flight search is the same thing. Okay, that was the same thing I was looking at, wasn't it? Yeah, this is really cool. I love this. Okay, so this is you trying to use the Expedia you know, search thing. But for me, top of my head, if I have to sort of give my own feedback and comment, I would have loved it to, you know, to do some more inferences, so that I don't have to give it explicit instructions. So if I'm saying, for example, suggest travel locations, it's able to suggest travel locations, right, for me, right? But when I ask it to use Expedia, it wants me to tell it exactly where I'm going, but it knows that I asked for travel. I'd love to see it perhaps saying, okay, cool, these are some of the locations, and let me pick the top number one, all right, Brazil, and let me do a search on Brazil and give you that, because this is the top one. And then I can say, no, I don't like Brazil, why don't you use the third one? Because we're having a chat conversation. I'd like it to sort of infer a little bit more, because when you ask it in 3.5 it can give you a list. So can't you give me the same list when you're using Expedia? Because it looks like Expedia, I have to specifically tell it the destination and the date for it to be able to do that. But I love it. So far so good. And I think for first iteration we're probably going to see a lot of improvements on this. So what am I missing here? I'm missing something. So I don't know if you're missing it too, or maybe I'm just missing it out of, like maybe I'm not looking properly. So I see Expedia, I see Instacart, I see Zapier, I see Kayak, and Kayak is sort of similar to Expedia in terms of flight searches. I see OpenTable for restaurants. I see Fiscal Note, okay, which is like data search. I see Wolfrun. All right, and I'm not sure how to use it as well. And I see Speak, but I'm not seeing the live internet search because, I've seen so many videos on plugins where they talk about, oh my gosh, now there is this live internet search functionality, and that is the one plugin I was looking forward to find. And if it's not in the most popular, I don't know where it would be, right? And that was the first plugin. And the next plugin I was really looking forward to see that I'm not seeing here as well is the code interpreter. So the code interpreter that, I've seen some demonstrations on it where you can like load an Excel spreadsheet and you can talk to it like you would do, and then it could do searches and stuff around, that, like the code interpreter. And I thought that was the coolest thing. And those were the two plugins I was looking forward to using the most. And those are the two plugins I do not see here today. So if somebody knows how to get a hold of those plugins, if they are available, or if they are perhaps inside in the unverified plugin space, let me know. But it looks like if you go to the unverified plugins, you have to enter some sort of URL or sort. So anyway, so play around with the plugins and let me know what you think, guys. I'm really, really excited. And the next thing that we're going to do now, which is the next part of the video, is we're going to go through now the plugin documentation, and we're going to develop our own plugin. And according to their OpenAI documentation, is they say you can do this in 5 minutes. So this is like 10:50, right? And I'm gonna time myself as to when I started developing my own plugin from scratch, and we're gonna see how many minutes it actually took following the OpenAI. It will take a bit longer because I'm gonna spend a little bit more time trying to explain to you what's going on here, right? So I'm going to link this URL in the description. This is the documentation on the chat plugins, okay? So if you read the documentations, it just starts by explaining what is a plugin. And I think in my mind, the fastest way or the quickest way to summarize to you what is a plugin is an additional piece of software that you can plug into ChatGPT to enable you to do certain functionalities that you wouldn't be able to do with ChatGPT on its own. Right? So they can't make ChatGPT master of all trades, right? That is why they allow you to now develop extra plugins that we can add on. And as you can see over here, you are already limited to 3 plugins, because obviously we couldn't, I think even if I was a software, I would be confused if I have to search through 100 different plugins. So I like the fact that there's a limit to how many plugins you can use at a time. You can always disable one and re-enable the other one based on what the purpose of that chat that you're doing is, right? So you can start a new chat, and in that new chat you can enable Expedia because that's what you want to use today, and then you can have another chat and enable something else, so I think I like that, because then that simplifies the sort of the range for ChatGPT to look for as far as plugins are concerned, especially since there's we've already seen multiple plugins doing the same thing, right? The second thing that I think plugins are useful for is real-time data and real-time information, and I think this is going to be a huge use case for plugins, and I can already see this happening. So things like real sports scores, I think they have it here. Things like financial information, because this is stuff that's happening in real time, the current stock price of this stock or Bitcoin or this and that, cryptocurrency, things like that, current information which we know ChatGPT wouldn't have, because ChatGPT has only been trained until 2021, somewhere in 2021. So that kind of information is going to be really, really useful in plugins, and I'm already seeing those type of plugins coming into the market already. What I wasn't expecting is, chat to PDF type of a plugin, but you can see those are already in there. But also specific company documentation. This is also going to be a big use case. But the way I see this is going to be personalized, and privatized. So you're going to see a lot of maybe let's say a company like Sasol is going to create their own Sasol plugin on ChatGPT, which has all the Sasol documentation, which you will probably need authentication to get into, and then you can use that second, that knowledge base plugin, which is provided for by ChatGPT to enable and start your plugin information. And then, once you do that, it's going to use that plugin to discover that information. And I can see this use case is going to grow, especially with corporates and things like that, where they want to use the power of ChatGPT, but they want to use their own information, right? And then things like booking a flight, ordering food. I'm not sure whether booking a flight is going to be able to be possible on ChatGPT. I think the way I see it is like what I've done here, where you can specifically search for flight information. Yes, you could do that on Google, but I love how ChatGPT is able to get all that information, quickly summarize it for you, and you're getting really relevant information. For me, if I had an option between ChatGPT and Google, I would pick ChatGPT 100 times over, because when I'm looking for a flight, all I want is just give me the flight, give me the basics. Flight 1, flight 2, flight 3, prices, dates, end of story. I don't need 100 other adverts of every other flight I should be taking, which costs double the price of what I'm looking for. So I can see already, if somebody is paying for ChatGPT, I can see them preferring to use that over Google any day. Definitely, I'm one of those people, right? Ordering food, I don't know, because when it comes to things like ordering food and even shopping, which I see a value for it, but I see how I'm struggling to see how that will be practical within ChatGPT, because ChatGPT is a global platform, right? So if I'm based in Johannesburg, South Africa, where I am right now, and I want to do, shopping, I want to check, restaurant availability within Johannesburg, South Africa, somebody has to build a plugin with the data of all the restaurants in Johannesburg, South Africa, right? And that plugin is not going to be the same as the restaurants in London, or restaurants in somewhere in New York, So being able to collect that data into a single plugin is going to be, very, very interesting. But I can see people doing that already, like I can see that happening as a value add, where you can then, because what I like about ChatGPT is that when it's provided the data, it can curate it and summarize things for you. And you can say, oh no, but this restaurant might be cheaper, however, for a kid's birthday, maybe rather go to this one. Like I can see that kind of commentary that you get with ChatGPT, being added into your to make your searches a bit richer. So people will still prefer to use it if they can perfect the ability to search for things, restaurants on ChatGPT. I can see people preferring that over Google, right? Stores and things like that. So you just need a database of that information. And I'm probably going to be the first one to build this, right? I've already got ideas in my head of how we're going to do this. So probably next week's video, we're going to talk about the embedding functionality, where we're going to be able to put in our own databases in there. And that is exactly the same type of plugin you would build for something like a restaurant search engine. All you need is somebody to go and scrape all the information off the internet, and you put all of that in a damn database. You put enough commentary around it, and you structure the data enough so that ChatGPT can pull it out nicely with comments around what this type of restaurant is and this and that, and you just scrap existing websites and you put all of that. I think the first person to do this is going to revolutionize ChatGPT. Okay, I'm excited about it. And what would be great is if you could do it per city, because I've read also in the documentation when I went through it that ChatGPT actually, when it does an API call on your plugin, it will give you the location of the person. So in the cases where you have specific restaurants that are location specific, ChatGPT can get the location of the person, and it will give you the location, so that when you respond back, you respond back with the appropriate thing. So I'm excited about all of these things. What I don't see here in my mind, which I think, I don't know whether this dish has missed it, or whether it's still coming, but for me, when I looked at ChatGPT and I looked at plugins, the most exciting thing for me, and the one thing that I had in my mind, that this is a plugin I'm going to build, and I'm going to build this in the next month, watch this space, right, is a plugin on being able to make ChatGPT an assistant. Because when I first I developed Mobile GPT, right? This website. I put videos on it all the time, but this is a website I developed where I try to bring the power of ChatGPT to WhatsApp. But we don't store any information. We don't, like I tell people, even in our privacy policy, we don't even keep records of your chats. We probably keep the last 4 or 5 prompts that you gave just for the sake of enabling the conversation, just like they do over here, where you can see the last 2-3 things you asked, because the next time you ask the next question, sometimes I need to refer back to it to enable a flowing conversation. That's the only thing I really save. I don't keep any other, I don't record anything else. But I sometimes get, questions. I've got a customer support line and people come to me to ask questions, but, your ChatGPT is not working. And I'm like, what do you mean? I asked it, because it says it's an assistant, and then I asked it to put in a reminder in my diary for something like, to remind me for this meeting, and it didn't do it. And then I thought to myself in my mind, how do you expect a whole WhatsApp application to put a reminder in your diary or to send you an email? But then I thought about it and I said, but that's what an assistant would do, isn't it? That is exactly what an assistant would do. And for some reason, because I called my application a WhatsApp assistant, somewhere, somehow, people actually expected that kind of functionality. And I got more than one customer service, because some of the customer service requests I look through myself. Like, even if I'm not the one who responds, I spend time, like on a Saturday when I'm relaxed, when I'm not doing anything else, I go through some of those, customer service questions that people ask. You'll be surprised. The most popular question I get that I see all the time is people that want to use the service for free. Like, it just boggles my mind, right? It boggles my mind that people have the audacity to even ask, can I just use it for free? I want to use it, but I don't want to pay for it, right? I'm like, okay, cool. Like, I don't know. Imagine just me walking to McDonald's. You know what? I love your burger, but I don't want to pay for it. I just want it for free. So I get that a lot. But then in the beginnings, the questions we used to get was, around, it didn't send the reminder. I didn't get the reminder, or I didn't get the email. I asked you to email me that, and we actually had to adjust our prompt in the system message so that if somebody asks such a question, it will correct them and say, actually, I'm not capable of doing anything like that. Because initially, our initial prompts, I think, didn't cover that. So we don't get those questions anymore, because we've adjusted our system prompt to be able to pick up those kind of requests and address them right then, so the person doesn't have the expectation of I'm going to have a reminder sent to me or an email or something like that. But when the plugins came in, I thought, but what if you could? What if actually you could? Somebody like they're searching for flights. Look at that. You see, I've searched for flights here, right? Let me go to this website. I've searched for flights, right? And it's 3rd of June. And then I say, okay, please put in a reminder in my diary for Friday so that I can book the flight. Or please send an email to my assistant. Her email address is this and that with this information. You know what I'm saying? Simple things. And I'm like, this is the plugin I'm going to build. So if you're watching this, watch this space. I'm gonna use a whole build in public thing. Of course, I'm not gonna show you my code because it's a private, but it will be amazing that after you've done this, you can say, yeah, please put in a reminder in my calendar, or please email me with this information. Email me this information. I'm just surprised going through all the plugins. There is no plugin that says, please email me this information. Nobody is like, please email me. Like, this is exactly the kind of thing I would expect a plugin to do. Right. Now, after that's said and done, that's not the plugin we're building today. That was just a by the way. I would expect this to be like top of those plugin lists. We're going to go through the information here. So introduction, go read it. I've basically more than covered it. Getting started, boom, 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 go read all of this. So basically what they're talking about here is a manifest, plugin manifest, a very, very important file that basically is like a summary of your plugin with all the information that a language model will understand what your plugin is about, what its capabilities is, what its limitations are, and even your choice of words are very, very important here. Because I've learned, if you started doing a little bit of prompt engineering, you'd understand that the specific choice of words are used, even if the intent is the same, ChatGPT can interpret it 2 different ways, right? So it's very, very important to get your wording right so that ChatGPT understands exactly what your plugin is about. So this schema file, or it's going to be in JSON format, it basically talks about the version so that in future, if you upgrade your thing and you got a different version, ChatGPT will remember the name, the model, if you've got a model that you're working with, a description. So I think the description for humans is the one that will display to humans, and I think there's some sort of limit of how many words it can be. And then the description for the model is for the model to understand what so the description for the model in my mind is where I would even get ChatGPT to help me write this properly in programming language with the right keywords, so that the model understands exactly what your plugin is about, and all sorts of other things. So today we're going to use also zero authentication or no authentication. So we're going to simplify our example as much as possible, right? So there's a lot of other things to go through here. There's also this YAML file as well. All right, you need both the manifest, right, and then you need the YAML file as well. But I think it's just a different way of communicating with the OpenAI so that it understands what. And on the YAML file, you'll have all the different routes and all the different sort of like functionalities that your app can do. It can post, it can get So think of building a plugin as building an API interface that allows you to do certain things outside of OpenAI and give OpenAI certain results. So when it comes to things like searching for flight information, think of your plugin as the access to this flight information data, whether it's in a database or wherever it is, right? And you're providing OpenAI an API or an API that allows you to just like go in there, right? And then it gives you certain information in a certain format, and those things are the things you're describing in your manifest and in your YAML files, exactly how those routes work. And so that the plugin understands what so that API understands what your plugin is all about. And then in the background, all you're doing is you're doing all that work, and then you're providing the information back to the API. So it is like an API application. So you're building an API application, and we've done a lot of API applications on this channel. So this is going to be like a walk in the park for us. Okay, so today what we're going to do is we're going to build an API application, and we're going to use exactly the example that they have over here. We're going to use their to-do list example. Okay, so I don't want to spend time reading all of this because it's quite a lot of it. What I'm going to do first is I'm going to go into I think if you go into examples and you go to plugin quick start, these are the different examples that show you all the different authorizations that you can do, right? Like you have you can do a plugin which has no authorization. The one I used right now for both Expedia and Wolfram, I didn't supply any authentication or authorization, so I didn't need to log in. I didn't need to specify who I am, or so it just provides information, and it provides it for free, which I think this is really cool, right? But there is other plugins, for example, that you will need to have authentication. So if you look through the list of plugins here, there's going to be other plugins, for example, like Zapier. For example, if you're going to use Zapier, Zapier is actually a paid service that links you to thousands and thousands of, I think it's the 5,000 apps. So you need to authenticate. You need to tell Zapier who you are so that it can link you to the correct application. And I think it's just amazing that they've got Zapier on OpenAI, because there's so much you can do with Zapier. Zapier is like a gateway to like 5,000 different applications. So think about it that way. That's just really amazing. But I'm really cool to see what I can do with Zapier here, I'm really interested to see that. So some applications will require authentication is basically what I'm trying to say to you here today. But the one we will build will be without authentication. And then you'll see here, if you click on the link there where it says quick start, there's a link that says plugin quick start repo. This is a repo on GitHub which has an example code which we'll be using today. So I downloaded this code directly. I downloaded it directly from the quick start repo. So if you click here, it will open this repo. This is the quick start repo. I don't need to link this. I will link it if you want, but it's not necessary. You can find it off the documentation. This is the repo. It's the minimalistic plugin example, which is the one which talks about the to-do list, right? So that's the one we're going to do today. That's the one we're going to go through. So if you wanted to, to build a minimalistic plugin, we're going to do it here together on this channel. So what you need to do is you need to go here and say use this template, and then create a new repo, and then it will create a new repo for you that you can clone. Otherwise, I've already done that for you. So this is what I can also link for you. So I've cloned this repo. It's exactly the same. If you can look there, I copied word for word. I just, you know, duplicated the repo in my own the code in my own repo, so that I can now git clone it or do stuff with it, whatever I want. So I'll put this in the description for you if you want to use my Scholar Online repo, because I don't mind. I just basically copied and pasted the code. Then if you go over there and you click the code under local, we're not using code spaces, we are using local, and under local there's HTTPS, SSH, and GitHub CLI, right? So just pick HTTPS and copy that. So once you copy that, this will be the link, because this is an open repo, which means you can just you know, you don't need any authentication to clone it. You just copy that there, right? Copy that there, like press that button, then it will say copied, and then you go to your virtual server or wherever it is you want to run this machine. I highly recommend you run this on a virtual server. I say this all the time, and guys, if you haven't gotten a virtual server for $5 a month, I don't know what you're doing developing. All right, you should be doing something else with your life. All right, because you are not going to be able to build all these things on your personal computer every single time, right? Trust me, I know. So on your virtual server, let's say you're gonna find a location like this, right? So there's nothing in this location, but actually I've already prepared this ahead of time, but you would just say git clone, right, and then paste that thing like that there, and then what it will do is that it will build, it will just copy the thing, and it will copy the same folder name and everything, right? I'm not going to do it because I've already done it. I even changed the folder name, because it will copy the folder name as the folder name will be this OpenAI plugin starter, and I don't like long folder names. I just renamed it to plugin. So if you look over here, you'll see plugin. I just renamed that whole thing to plugin. So if you cd into that and you clear and you ls in here, you'll see these are all the files that are in the requirements.txt. In fact, if you can open this requirements.txt, it's the same file. All of these files are just the files which are in here. Requirements, OpenAI YAML, whatever. So I've just basically copied all these files into my virtual server. That's all I've done. Okay, and I've got it now, so I can run these files. And then over here, I've opened it using Atom. Last week I was doing a beginner's tutorial, and we learned that Atom has been discontinued. So you can use any other code editor. I just have Atom here, and I think I'm gonna stop using it because I'm sure they're no longer developing this thing. That's why I get so many crashing errors these days. But basically, you can do all of that, and you'll see what we've got here is so the requirements of txt tells you all the things you need to install. Okay, so it's going to be using quad and quad cores. The main file where all the magic happens is in here. All right, so this is very, very quick. I'll take you through this code very, very quickly, but you guys, you need to have basic knowledge of Python programming. You need to have basic knowledge of, Flask at least, or some other web service, and understand what APIs are, what is to post get. If you don't know all of these things, you're going to waste your time. You won't understand anything I'm saying. So I learned that actually some of the people watching my channel don't know the basics. And last week I did a basic video, so at least start by watching that basic video from last week, because it covers just Python basics. And today I was going to continue with that series and do a web development basics, but then this came up and I think this is important. But go and watch those basics video first for beginners, and then come back, because I don't want to spend too much time explaining basic things, right? So basically, the library we're using here is quad and quad cores, and these are the things you need to import. And you can see over there in the requirements.txt file, they are there. And from quad, we import a request, okay? And then we create a quad app, all right? So we're using that quad cores, and we create a new app. And then we allow origin chat openai.com. What you can do here, you can even do that so that it allows anyone to access your application. But if you're building this API specifically for Open ChatGPT only, then you need to do it like that. Otherwise, if you're building it for, let's say you're using the API somewhere else, which in my case, my APIs, like there's multiple places you can you can include you can put a star, or you can include all of the places where you're doing it. And then you can see over here at the top you have your to-dos. So this is basically a to-do app. If you read through it, it's a to-do app. So if you go to the readme.txt, where is it? Okay, the readme.txt does not explain what the app does, but it basically is a to-do app. It allows you to, in your chat, to edit as a plugin and to keep scores of to-do somewhere. So you can tell it, oh, please put this in my to-do list, or please delete this from my to-do list, or can you show me all the things in my to-do list? What do I need to do? So it's like, yeah, it's a very basic to-do app, and a to-do app is the best way to explain to people, especially if you want to learn what we call create, destroy, CRUD applications. Create, read, update, destroy, or delete data in a database. It's the best app to help you do that. But now we are doing it with an API, so we should be able to add new to-dos. I don't know if it has a delete functionality. Delete, get to-dos, delete to-dos. Yeah, it has an add to-do. You can add a to-do. You can get to-dos, all the to-dos that you have available. You can delete to-dos. You can you can get the logo of the application, the manifest, and the OpenAI spec. So all of these, the OpenAI YAML file, the plugin.json, the logo, these functions I think are standard throughout. You need to give API an endpoint to access these things so that it can see, it knows your app logo, it knows where your plugin, because you need to be able to render or make these available on the API, so that the thing knows what your application is about. And we'll go through those YAML files later on, but these are the main application functionalities. Okay, you can add a to-do, you can get a to-do, right, and you can delete a to-do. All right, so what else would you want to do? Update. If you want to update a to-do, maybe you could add a functionality for that, but I think these also explain a lot what needs to be done. So and you can see over here the to-dos, they're not kept in any database of any sort. They are just kept inside of an empty object. So when you get started with this app for the first time, you can see this object is going to be empty, which means as you add to-dos to this, you're going to make this object have more and more to-dos inside of it. And you can delete some to-dos, but if you restart this application, the to-dos will there's no persistence. If you want, this is where you would plug in a database and you'd be able to put the things in the database. And you can see also there's no real, it says add a username, but actually in the data itself there's no real username management over here. There's no authentication, there's no user verifications and things like that in place. So I suppose multiple people could use it, and it would, I'm assuming when you add a to-do, let's see what happens when you add a to-do. You get the JSON that's been sent from OpenAI. Okay, if username not in to-dos, okay, to-do username is an empty list. Okay, to-dos username append, request to do, and then response okay. So if there's no username, so we'll have to-dos. The username is going to be a list. Okay, and that list is going to be a list of username, and then we're going to append append request to do. Okay, so the to do part of the request, we're going to append it. Okay, and all of that. So if we want to get a to-dos, then we will use the username there, and then we'll get the response of JSON.dumps to-dos, get the username, or else is an empty list, and we supply a status 200. So we'll get, so the to-dos will be saved under a specific username, and the username will be provided. So if multiple users use it, the to-dos will be saved under different usernames. Okay, so I think there's some sort of management of which to-dos belong to which user. And then when you get the to-dos, it basically lists all the to-dos under that person's username. So this is a get list to-dos. And then delete, we need an ID of the to-do. that we want to delete and so forth. So maybe you can use the same thing for updating and things like that. But this is a very, very basic application, okay? You can get a list, and this list is going to be saved inside of this object over there, and it's going to be saved under a list of the username, whatever the username is, which means we need to be provided with a username for each and every person. All right, and then this path over here, it just displays the logo. So there's a file here called logo.png. It's just a to-do. It's a picture written to do there. So this is what will be displayed for our app, hopefully. All right, so basically if somebody goes into the path, which is get logo.png, what we'll do is that we have a file name called png, and we just send that that file name. Okay, that file name. So if you had your logo saved in a different location, you would need to have the absolute path of that different location, and then you just use quad to send that file back to, you know, and you just specify the MIME type, and then it will send the file via the request. And then over here we need to also make the plugins.json file and the YAML file available. Okay, so let's go through the plugins.json file. The plugins.json file is under a folder called .wellknown, which is this one here, and then you can see the AI plugin.json. So over here is that plugin file. So this file is the one we were talking about over here. Where was it? I think we've already getting started. Yeah, it's this one over here. So this is the AI plugin.json file. This is the file that gives OpenAI basic information about what your plugin is about. Okay, so the version, if you then update your plugin and you have version 2 of it, you will update this to version 2, version 1.1. You know, the version should just be different if it changes. And then the name of your plugin, okay, to do plugin, no auth. Name for the model, this is the to do a model. So I'm just curious to see if you would have more than one to do name for the model, if you would have more than one to do. Like if you have a multiple thing, let's say you want to do reminders and you want to do to-dos and you want to do, you know, multiple things, you know, how would you manage that? I'm very curious to see a more complex version of this, because if or would you build a plugin for each and every one of them? Or, you know what I'm saying? Like maybe you would have one model, and if you wanted to do an application that does both reminders and emails and things like that, perhaps you would do that. And then you need definitely a description for it, and like I explained, the model description and the human description, and then the auth, we're not using any authorization whatsoever. We're not going to ask the user to authorize. If you want to use authorizations, you can go here under getting started, authentication. There you go. So this is the one where we're using no authentication at all, where the auth is type is none. All right, so there you go, auth type is none. This is where we don't need to authenticate. You can just, like, let's say you're providing this service for free and you've got your own way of managing which user is which. Like in this specific case, you know, you just want people to have a nice fun thing, you know, you don't care about who's who, is not any private information that you have in there, then that's okay. All right, service level authentication. All right, so this is a little bit more complicated. If you want to specifically enable OpenAI apply to work with the API, you can provide client secret during the plugin installation flow. Okay, this means that all traffic from OpenAI plugin will be authenticated, but not on a user level. Okay, this flow benefits from a simple end user experience, but less control from an API perspective. So this is like a very high level where you can create just one token for OpenAI. So this is where you need to protect your information. And for some, you know, you might not want everybody, because once you put up a plugin like this on the internet, anybody who has the URL can access it, right? So you might not want that. You might, you know, because that's how people hack your files and you know, and steal your customer data and things like that. You might not want that, especially if you're gonna store people's email addresses and stuff like that. You might want some level of authentication, even if it's on the app level. So I think this is like a service level where OpenAI itself will have some authentication, but not on a user level. Each and every user is not authenticating per use, right? And then on the user level, this is where you have the user level. Okay. So for now, due to current UI limitations, right, because obviously, you know, you can see how it is, like the UI limitation there, right? Like how will you know, like how do I log into the plugin myself, you know? So currently they're not allowing it. They're saying they're not allowing it. All right. This is where, for example, a user would just provide their username and password. Right. So how are they authenticating Zapier, for example? I need to see that. Also, they have OAuth. Okay, so I think I know what OAuth is. Also, you can do this on a user level as well, where you provide a link and then the user needs to go and click on that link, and then you get some tokens and stuff like that. So at least if they have this, you can do some sort of authentication. But you can see on the user level, currently they don't have that. So this is where you'd get a user token and things like that. So for now, for simplicity, we'll just use the none. All right. And then you've got the API. Okay, this is where it's showing when you need to give it the location of your Open API YAML file, which is this one over here. We're going to go through it now. All right. And you need to make sure that you are serving this file. This is why we are serving it here inside of the main on the main .py. It's this Open API.yaml file. So you can see it gets served. Where's our JSON file? So you can see that the URL of your application, and / openapi.yaml will serve this path, this get path, and then it will find that JSON and it will return the text JSON file to the user. So that's what's happening over here. And the logo as well. The logo is also on the URL .logo.png, which we are also serving over here, .logo.png. Now, where the YAML file is being served there, the JSON file is being served there under well-known AI plugins.json. So the order in which all of this is organized, do not change it. All right. If you want to play around and provide a different type of a model, you can change all of these, your username and whatever's. But if you change this model over there, make sure you change it also inside of the plugins over there, and make sure you change it also inside of the YAML file, because we also describe it in here. I don't want to spend too much time going through the YAML file, but basically what the YAML file is sort of like it's like a record, or a it's not a database, it's a record, it's a it's just a file that explains to the API exactly what is available on your plugin. All right, and I've covered this, so go read through it in your own time. You'll see it's talking about to-dos. What it does, it gets the list of to-dos. So if you go to the to-dos username, all right, it's a get function. All right, so the to-dos username is this one over here, to-dos username. All right. And if you do a post request to this to-dos username, what you will get is this, it will be a get, and then you will get a list of all the to-dos. All right. And then what's required over here is a string of the username. Okay. So the name of the user is required, and the kind of responses you can get is 200 if everything is okay, and all sorts of things. All right. So, all right. Get to-dos response. I'm trying to figure out where component schemas. I don't see any of this. Is the component schemas in here? Is it supposed to be? Nope. All right, so perhaps like there's some sort of schemas that you have to define in this location. I'm wondering where this is, because nothing else came with this. Let me just have a look here. There's nothing else. I'm sure I copied everything. But anyway, let's just run this and see. And I think I mentioned this last week when I was doing my video, that one of the best ways to learn coding and programming is going through and reading and studying code written by somebody else that works. So if you can find working code, well-written code, well-documented code, which is written by professionals, people who know what they're doing, and you go through that code and you reverse engineer the code to figure out what they've done, what this means, and just study the code. That was the majority of my learning. Yes, I did YouTube videos and I did online learning, but online learning and YouTube videos, most of them are so very basic that you can't actually go and build a working application of the information you learn for a YouTube video, except for our channel, right? But over and above that, if you find well-written, well-documented, perfect code that does something very, very specific. That is the best learning you will get to to figure out how things work. So I think I've covered enough of like showing you how this the plugin code looks like. Take your time in your own private time, go through the code, read through it line by line, and try and understand it. What I'm going to try and do is to implement it. So first of all, we're not going to run this on localhost 5003. That's the first thing you need to change, okay? Because we're going to run this on here on this machine, all right? And this machine is let me find the URL for this machine. It's definitely going to be HTTP, because it's not going to be on HTTPS. I'm so glad that they did not try and enforce that you must run HTTP to test the plugin, because it's so irritating when you come across API people who demand those kind of things, which means you have to like load your thing online to test it, you know. So this is 164.92. Let me just write this down. Dot 216.217. Okay, and port 5003. Okay, if you want to run it on port 503, you need to enable it first. So let me sudo ufw enable 5003. Is that the word? Nah, it's not enable, it's allow. Cool. So I'm going to disallow it as soon as I finish with this project, because I don't like to disallow, or what is the word? Allow? Deny. Okay. So when I'm done with this, I just need to come back here and deny. All right. So now that I've done that, this is the port that I'm going to be running from. So everywhere where you see localhost 5003, just replace it with this, whatever your IP is. So you need to check where you're running this from. If you're running it in your personal computer, which I do not recommend, then you can just leave it as it is and just make sure that the port 5003 is enabled. But it would be in your case, because you don't have a firewall by default. On my virtual server, I have a firewall by default, so I actually have to enable this. So I'm going to go through all the files and replace everything. Legalinfo.url. I'm just gonna put in a legal from one of my other websites, a privacy policy from one of my other websites, and I'm just going to put it in there. All right, I'm gonna put in my own email address. Okay, those are simple things you can change. All right, and then main.py, there's nothing in there. Let me just go through all the files and make sure that I've replaced this in all the files. License. The logo, I'm not going to replace the logo. I'm going to leave it as it is. But in case you wanted to replace the logo, you could do that as well. All right. So I've done that. If you wanted to replace the logo, just in this location, put in whatever your logo is and just rename it logo.py. Just so that if you don't know, otherwise, if you name it something else, you're going to have to go change it in all the locations so that it finds the right file. Okay. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to push these changes to where I'm working from. All right. All right. Okay, after I've pushed these changes over here, I just want to make sure that they were pushed properly, because I'm pushing these for the first time. I'm going to open the YAML file. Okay. And I just want to make sure, yes, that the IP is changed. Okay, that's cool. So the next thing is we're gonna run and install our our requirements.txt file. So I'm going to, first of all, virtual env. I'm going to create a env and I'm going to call it plugin env. All right. Oh no. Yeah, why did I do my env in here? Okay, that's okay. I normally do it a folder up. It's fine. Source env plugin bin activate. So I've activated my environment over there. So once you've activated your environment over there, there's one line of code if you have a requirements.txt file that you can just run it and it will install everything inside of a requirements.txt file, which is just two things, quad and quad cores. So let's just pip install -r requirements.txt. It will go and install everything inside of my requirement.txt file. Cool. Now that you've done that, let's see what else you need to do. You just run python main.py, right? So let's copy that and let's run our python main.py. Cool. So it's running this on python main.py. So it's running everything properly. Everything is running the quad app main application without errors. Okay, so if you get here, you're good. Now we want to install this plugin inside of our OpenAI API and then actually start saving the to-dos in there, right? So let's go and do that. First of all, we need this URL. So let's go and see. The URL is this one. Okay, we need the URL to install the plugin. So if we go to our new chat, GPT-4, plugins beta, and we want to plugin store, but we want to install an unverified plugin. So you're gonna put in your URL over there and find plugin. Okay, so let's see the instructions again. All right, so navigate to in the model down plugins. Note you don't see a list that you don't have to access yet. Develop your own plugin. Oh, I must go to develop your own plugin. Okay, develop my own plugin. Aha. Okay, there you go. Develop my own plugin. Find manifest file. So it couldn't find the manifest. What am I missing here? Let's just cancel this and go and start again from scratch. Plugin store, develop your own plugins. Okay, cool. Visit our documentation to learn how to build a plugin. If your plugin has been approved to be in the ChatGPT plugin store and you have made changes to your plugins manifest, your plugins will be removed from the store and you will need to resubmit for review. Oh, so maybe you need to submit for review first, but according to this, you should be able to test this. What am I missing here? Okay, navigate to that, select plugin store, select develop your own plugin, enter in since the URL of the server is run locally, then select find manifest file. Okay, I am saving the manifest file, am I not? Where is the manifest file? So the manifest file should be here. There, plugin.json. Get the manifest. So well-known plugin.json. Shouldn't we try that? Okay. We're gonna try different options over here. So openai.com. Okay, so whatever I pasted there, maybe let's not put in the entire HTTP like that. Let's try that. Could not find manifest file. Is 5003 running? Let's try and see online, because sometimes you have to test these things online as well. 5003 site can't be reached. Okay, so if I do 5003 and I try to access the logo.png, No, but I'm not trying to access 000. Okay, so let's dish. Okay, let's try and open this. Okay, let's try and see the logo .png. There you go. So it is serving this. So let's try and serve the manifest exactly where the manifest file is. Let's try that. Dish. There you go. So the manifest file is there. Let's try this again. Okay, so I'm missing something here. Okay, so the plugin.json file, this one. Which is this file over here. And we paste that in there. And could not find manifest file. So what am I missing here, guys? I follow the instructions exactly. I don't want to submit it for review because I'm testing the plugin. All right. So obviously I don't want to test develop my own plugin. All right, let's try that. Is this the right domain? It is actually, because we've tested it online. We've tested it and the file is there. All right, so you have to also sometimes just check if that thing is there. So I'm going to find manifest, nothing. Just find different ways of rewriting this. Nothing. Nothing. All right. Let's try again the verified, unverified. Okay. Cannot find it. Find plugin, cannot find it. Could not find plugin. Could not find plugin. All right, so I'm missing something here, obviously. I followed their documentation exactly. All right, I navigated that, select the plugin, go to plugin store, develop your own, enter this. Unless if I need to run this on localhost. I don't want to run this on localhost. Perhaps that's the problem. Perhaps it doesn't want to run on third party, on non-local host, because if you're testing and you're not running on HTTPS, perhaps there's some sort of limitation there, right? I can run this on localhost, actually. I don't like to do that, but I can if push comes to shove, right? So if I clear this, let me oh no, I can't run this on. I can actually. Why can't I? Let's see, because I don't like to run anything on localhost. But let's see if pip can install requirements.txt. I don't have pip. Yeah, I can't run this on localhost. I don't have pip. I don't have any of that stuff on my local machine because I don't usually like to run code on my local machine. But this is as far as we go. So I'm going to troubleshoot this off camera. If I find a solution, if you find a solution before I do find a solution next week, just let me know. But I have followed the instructions exactly. I didn't edit this code at all. I basically just copied and pasted this code directly from their website, and I followed the steps exactly, and it did not work. Okay, it did not work. Normally I'm that kind of a developer that does not accept that things don't work, because there's no such thing as things not working. So I have to find what is the problem with my installation of it. So I can only think of one main thing, that perhaps they only allow for testing on localhost. That's what I suspect. Okay, I suspect that testing is only allowed on localhost, and I can't actually test on localhost if I'm testing on or maybe I can try that, right? But actually you can't, because if I come here, main.py, if you look over here, right, this is running on this, but it's not really running on this, because not per not, that's localhost, right? If you go there and you try to find this, let's see. Yeah, it's not on, because the not per not is localhost of this MacBook machine, right? Over here it's localhost of this, because you're running over there. But if you want to now access this server from here, I actually have to put in the actual IP address of the server. So what I suspect is perhaps that's the only thing I can think of, because you can see over here that the manifest file is there, right? It's there. The to-do manifest file is there. So the only thing I can think of is perhaps on OpenAI, they're not allowing you to install anything that is not on localhost if it's not on HTTPS server. So the only way for me to test this for sure is to actually install it on a proper HTTPS domain, and then test it that way, right? And I can install the exact to-do app on that. So maybe we'll try that next week, because we're running out of time for this week. So in the meantime, just try and troubleshoot it and let me know what you find. All right, I follow the instructions that they have it, and for me, I did not get it to work, and I'm gonna obviously keep trying to solve the problem. And if you solve it before me, let me know in the comments below. And other than that, we'll see you guys next week.